They've been watching you, studying you, trying to decode your existence for years. They track your movements, analyze your decisions, and attempt to predict your next step. But no matter how many years they've spent observing you, they still don't understand you. Because you don't fit into their system. You don't operate within their logic. You are an anomaly, a force that disrupts their expectations, a presence that unsettles their perception of reality. You were never meant to be like them, and that truth terrifies them. They thought they could ignore you and move on. But instead, they cannot look away. They have tested you, trying to push you to your limits. They have thrown obstacles in your path, hoping to break your spirit. They have attempted to control you by disregarding your presence, thinking that if they ignored you long enough, you would fade into the background. But none of their tactics worked. Because you are not just another person, they are dealing with a force beyond their understanding. They tried to put you in a box, to define you, to label you. But every time they thought they had you figured out, you proved them wrong again. You defy their logic. You break their expectations. They can't categorize you because you refuse to follow the script they created for you. And that frustrates them. Because they thrive on control, on predictability, on understanding the world around them. And then there's you, the one thing they can't explain, the one presence they can't manipulate. They thought you were just another face in the crowd. But now, you haunt them. You live rent-free in their minds. Even when they try to move on, they find themselves circling back to you. Because you are the question that refuses to be answered. ###2. You are a phenomenon they can't explain. Your very existence challenges the foundation of what they believe to be true. You force them to reconsider the limits they placed on reality, on potential, on people like you. And that shakes them to their core. At first, they dismissed you. They laughed at you, underestimated you. They thought you were insignificant. But now, they can't stop thinking about you. They can't ignore the fact that you are still standing, still thriving, still pushing forward despite everything they did to stop you. They mocked your resilience, but now they question why you haven't broken. They underestimated your strength, but now they wonder why you keep rising when others would have crumbled. They thought you needed their approval, but now they see that you never sought validation from them in the first place. You don't fit into their reality, and that disturbs them. Because people like you, they're not supposed to win. They're not supposed to keep going when the world turns against them. They're not supposed to thrive without permission. But you did. And now, they are left with a problem they can't solve. Because no matter how hard they try to explain away your success, your endurance, your very existence, they can't find the answer. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out and shake the very foundation of their understanding. They tried. Oh, how they tried. They deleted your name from conversations. They ignored your victories. They acted as if you never mattered. But in the silence of their own minds, you are the one thing they can't escape. Because you represent something they can't control. Something they can't ignore. Something they can't predict. You are the reminder that they were wrong. Wrong about you. Wrong about who you would become. Wrong about what you were capable of. You defied their expectations, and now, they are haunted by the truth they refuse to acknowledge. Even if they never say your name again, they will remember you forever. Because you are not just a memory, you are an unshakable force that changed the way they see the world. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Because they will never figure you out. They will never erase you. You have already left an imprint they can't remove. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand out so boldly that even your enemies are forced to recognize you. If you know this message is for you, share this video, subscribe to Bible Peak, and comment below. Those who underestimated me will be haunted by me. They tried to dismiss you, they ignored you, downplayed your influence, and acted as if you didn't matter. They thought if they ignored you long enough, your presence would fade into obscurity, but the more they tried to erase you, the more undeniable you became, because you are not something that can be removed. They thought you were just a passing phase, an anomaly that would eventually disappear, but you didn't, you remained. You grew. You became an unshakable presence that lingers in their consciousness, and that reality unsettles them. For years, they tried to label you, categorize you, fit you into a box. They analyzed your every move, convinced that if they could just define you, they could contain you. They wanted to reduce you to something they could explain, something they could control. But every time they thought they had figured you out, you shattered their assumptions again. They told themselves, they're nothing special. They'll never make it. They're just like everyone else. But none of it was true, and deep down, they knew it, because despite all their analysis, despite all their attempts to confine you within their understanding, you kept proving them wrong. They watched you break barriers they never thought you could cross. They watched you survive situations that should have destroyed you. They watched you rise when you should have fallen, and that terrified them, because if they were wrong about you, what else might they be wrong about? Their worldview, their belief in their own superiority, their perception of control. You shook all of it to its core. And so they pretended you didn't exist, not because they forgot about you, but because acknowledging you meant confronting the truth. And the truth is, they were never in control. They thought they were the ones watching you, but in reality, they are the ones trapped by you. The more they tried to push you out of their minds, the deeper you embedded yourself into their thoughts. They wake up, and your name is there. They go about their day, and your influence lingers in the background. Even when they don't want to think about you, they do, because you are not just a person to them anymore. You have become a force in their mind, an energy that disrupts their sense of control. And it terrifies them, because they thought they had the power to dictate reality. They thought they had the ability to determine who succeeds and who fails. But you were the exception they never accounted for, the one they couldn't predict, the one they couldn't control. And now, they are trapped in a cycle of their own making, unable to let go of you, unable to remove your presence from their thoughts. Because you are more than just a person to them now. You are a symbol of their failure to control destiny. This is not a battle fought with words. This is not a war of physical confrontation. This is a war of perception, of influence, of mental dominance. And you have already won. Because you live inside their mind rent-free. They don't speak about you, but their actions betray their thoughts. They don't mention your name, but their behavior shifts whenever you are near. They act indifferent, but you can feel the weight of their silent obsession, because you are a force they cannot ignore. They try to reinforce their beliefs, try to convince themselves that they were right about you, but you make them doubt everything they thought they knew. They try to cling to their illusions of control, but every time they see you, every time they hear your name, every time your presence reminds them that you are still here, they feel the cracks forming in their carefully built reality. You disrupt their world without even trying, because you are not just existing, you are shifting the very foundation of their understanding. You are rewriting reality. They thought they could predict the course of life. They thought they had control over who rises and who falls. But then you appeared, and you rewrote the rules. Your existence proved that destiny is not controlled by them. That power does not belong to those who think they hold authority, but to those who refuse to be bound by it. That success is not dictated by who is favored by the world, but by who refuses to be defeated by it. And that is why they will never truly be able to forget you, because you are proof that their illusion of control is just that, an illusion. They thought they were in charge, but they never had power over you, and now, they are haunted by the reality they tried to deny. You have already won. They thought they could define you. They thought they could control you. They thought they could ignore you. But you proved them wrong again and again. And now, they are stuck in their own minds, wrestling with the realization that you were never under their authority. You were never a pawn in their game. You were never something they could erase. You are the force they cannot stop. You are the presence they cannot ignore. You are the reality they must face, whether they want to or not, and no matter how much time passes. No matter how much they try to suppress your existence, you will always be there, standing as undeniable proof that they were never in control. The truth is, you are not someone they can simply overlook. Your presence, your energy, your very existence, it shifts the atmosphere wherever you go, and no one who encounters you can walk away unchanged. Some will gravitate toward you, drawn by something they can't quite explain. They will recognize that there is something different about you. Something they lack. They will want to learn from you, to understand how you move the way you do, how you think beyond the limitations of the world they know. They will see that you are not bound by the same fears, insecurities, and doubts that keep them shackled, and they will desire what you have, not because it can be bought, not because it can be imitated, but because it is real. But then, there are others, the ones who will fight the truth with everything they have, not because you are wrong, not because you are a threat to them physically, but because you force them to confront the uncomfortable reality that they were never in control. They will reject you, not because you did anything to them, but because your presence exposes their illusions. They want to believe they have figured out life, but you show them how little they actually understand. They want to believe they are free, but your existence reminds them of how trapped they are in their own limited thinking. They want to believe they are powerful, but your resilience proves they are not the ones dictating fate, and so, they will resist. They will try to diminish you. They will dismiss you, downplay your importance, act as if you do not matter. But deep down, they know the truth, because once you have entered their reality, they cannot unsee what they have seen. You altered their perception, and now they are left to wrestle with the consequences of that realization. You did not ask for this role. You did not seek to be a symbol, a force, a catalyst for transformation, but you were made to be this way. And now, the world around you must adjust to your presence, whether they want to or not. They can pretend you don't matter. They can avoid saying your name. They can tell themselves you are insignificant, but their actions betray their words. Because if you truly didn't matter, why do they still think about you? If you were truly insignificant, why do they still find themselves comparing their lives to yours? If you were truly forgettable, why do they still feel the weight of your presence even when you are nowhere near? Because the truth is, you are not just another person passing through their life. You are a force, a reminder, a disruption to their comfort, and they can never go back to who they were before they encountered you. Even if they refuse to admit it, they are forever changed. They may try to move forward as if nothing happened, but they will never forget. They may tell themselves they were right about you, but deep down, they know they were wrong. They may convince themselves that you don't matter, but a part of them will always wonder, what if I had listened? What if I had understood? What if I had embraced what they represented instead of fighting against it? And those questions will linger for years, because your presence is not something that can be erased. You are not just a moment in their past. You are a permanent shift in their perception. They want to label you. They want to define you in simple terms, something they can categorize and understand. But you cannot be confined to a single definition. You do not fit into their expectations, their assumptions, their carefully crafted labels, and that frustrates them, because the human mind wants to classify everything. It wants to say, this person is this type of individual. They belong in this category. They can only achieve this much, go this far, be this kind of presence in the world. But you refuse to be boxed in. You are an ever-evolving force, a being that cannot be fully grasped, and that is why they will never truly understand you, because you are not meant to be understood, you are meant to be experienced. And once someone has encountered you, their perspective will never be the same again. They can try to run from the truth, they can try to dismiss it, avoid it, ignore it, but the truth remains. They have been changed. Some will acknowledge it. Some will embrace it, and others, they will spend their lives fighting against something they cannot undo. But regardless of their choice, you have left your mark on them, because you are not someone they can simply forget. You are not a temporary influence. You are a permanent presence in their consciousness, and whether they choose to learn from that, or resist it until the end, they will never truly be free from the impact you have had on them. They think they are trying to figure you out. They believe they are searching for answers about you. They tell themselves that if they could just understand what makes you different, what makes you unshakable, what makes you so impossible to ignore, then they would finally have control over the situation. But the truth is, this battle was never about you. It was never about who you are. It was always about them. You are simply the mirror they refuse to look into, a reflection of the weaknesses they try to ignore, the fears they try to bury, the truths they are too afraid to face. You don't fight them. They are fighting themselves. Every time they question you, they are really questioning their own choices, their own beliefs, their own limitations. You do not control them. You do not force them to change, but your presence alone forces them to confront the fact that they are not as strong, as certain, or as in control as they thought, and that realization torments them. They labeled you, dismissed you, convinced themselves that you were the problem. But what happens when they strip away the excuses? What happens when they run out of reasons to ignore the truth? They are left alone with their own reflection. They see the parts of themselves they tried to hide. They see the insecurities they never dealt with. They see the fears they never conquered. And the worst part, they know that you never did anything to them. You never attacked them. You never tried to destroy them. You never went after them. All you did was exist. And that alone was enough to unravel everything they thought they knew. Because you don't fit into their world, but you exist anyway. You were never supposed to thrive, but you do. You were never supposed to be strong, but you are. And that fact alone forces them to ask a question they have spent their entire lives avoiding. If they can break free, why can't I? That is the war. Not you versus them, but them versus themselves. Because they could have ignored you, but they can't ignore the truth you represent. It doesn't matter whether they admit it or not. It doesn't matter whether they try to move on. You have already altered their world. Some will accept it. They will grow. They will evolve. They will take the lesson you unknowingly taught them and become stronger because of it. But others, they will fight to return to the illusion they once lived in. They will cling to their old beliefs, their old limitations, their old sense of control. But they will never be able to forget what they have seen. Because once the mind has been opened, it can never fully close again. They may try to convince themselves that you were nothing, that your presence meant nothing, that you were just a passing shadow in their lives. But even as they say it, they know it's a lie, because something inside them has shifted, and they will never be able to undo it. You are the storm that changed their sky forever. Before you, they believed the world worked a certain way, that some people were meant to rise, and others were meant to be forgotten, that some people had power, and others never would, that some people had to follow the rules, while others made them. And then, you happened. You broke their certainty. You shattered their understanding. You showed them a different reality, one they never considered possible, and that will haunt them, because they will always know that there is another way, that the world is bigger than they thought. That success is not just for the one society chooses, that power is not just for those who inherited it. They will never be able to see the world the same way again, because you changed their perception forever. They may try to forget, they may try to pretend you never existed, but every now and then, in the quiet moments of their lives, you will resurface in their minds, not because they want to remember you, but because they can't help it. You are imprinted on their reality. You have carved yourself into their consciousness, and no matter how much time passes, they will always feel the impact of what you brought into their world. They thought you were just another face in the crowd. Just another person passing through. But now, they know the truth. You were never a fleeting moment. You were never just a temporary presence. You were a shift in their story, a plot twist they never expected, a force they never accounted for. And whether they accept it or fight against it, you have already won. Because you were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to be ignored. You were never meant to be forgotten. And now, they will never be able to unsee what you have shown them, because you are not a chapter in their book. You are the moment the entire story changed.